Hunter Biden back in the spotlight, possibly facing tax and gun charges. Donald Trump sues CNN, and all rise for the new session of the High Court. What history could be made this year? Alan Dershowitz is our legal legend and the host of the podcast The Dersh Show. He's also the author of The Price of Principle: Why Integrity is Worth the Consequences. Professor, always good to see you. I don't think that we're going to see anything in the way of charges before the election, but what do you see happening here on the Hunter Biden case?
Well, I think the investigation will continue. I don't think he will be charged with the false information on the gun charge because, those cases are generally not charged. And his lawyer is right when he says the only reason that they went after him on the gun charge was because of his last name. The government doesn't generally check the correctness of answers in the gun charge, but for the fact that he had written a book indicating that he was a drug user, they never would have found this. So that's not going to be a strong case, I think. But tax case, who knows? He'll probably try to blame it on the accountant, but, he signed it, and the accountants may say he informed them of the information. So that's very much a work in progress. The point I want to make, which is counterintuitive, is the man who should be rooting most strongly for Biden not to be indicted is Donald Trump. Because if Hunter is charged, it increases the chances that the government could say, well, look, we're not biased. We charged the son of the president. We certainly can charge the former president as well.
That's actually a really good point. And I know that a lot of folks are thinking that we're going to see a perp walk and we're going to see all of this fanfare around this. I'm not buying it yet. And I think that there's more to come.
I hate the weaponization of crime on either side. I don't think people should be targeted because of who they are, whether they're Donald Trump or Hunter Biden. But look, if the facts come out and support strongly a criminal prosecution, well, that's the way it has to be.
Yeah. Supreme Court back in session with Ketanji Jackson Brown on the High Court. We've talked, you and I, about the landmark affirmative action case that is before the court this session. What are some of the other cases, though, that you're keeping a close eye on this year, Professor?
Well, first of all, the affirmative action case, beyond affirmative action, it may decide finally and correctly that race cannot be used as a factor by the government, even a factor. It's like religion. The Constitution specifically says no religious test. And I think this case may really give rise to a strong statement against the racialization of America. That would be a very good thing. Look, there are always a bunch of cases that are interesting voting rights cases. There are no abortion or gay rights cases. None of these cases are likely to do anything. Gun control cases. You just don't know how important a given case is until you hear the argument, and we really haven't heard the arguments yet.
All right, well, we're going to be following it closely. Former President Trump filing a $475 million lawsuit against CNN for defamation over the Russia collusion allegations. Playing devil's advocate, he was the president of the United States, or he was a candidate, a public figure. It's an issue arguably of public concern. Do you think that this will go anywhere? Because, generally on defamation with a public figure, the bar is pretty high. Now, there's a lot of evidence, but the bar is also pretty high here. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Well, I'm bringing a case against CNN, too, and it's survived a motion to dismiss. They totally and completely changed what I said, left out words from my quote, and then had me say exactly the opposite from what I said. I'm a public figure, too, and I have to get over the malice requirement.
Right.
And so does Trump. And, it depends on what the evidence is. CNN is entitled to their opinions, but they're not entitled to their facts. They're not entitled to make up facts. And if they have a consistent pattern of making up facts, then I think it will go to a jury. And then, of course, anybody's guess as to how a jury will decide the case.
Yeah, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of hours of reporting on the so-called Russia collusion narrative that really went nowhere and wasn't supported by a lot of facts. Alan Dershowitz, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
For real people.